how the military is helping in the aftermath of Hawaiian wildfires, and a sentencing connected to the death of soldier Vanessa Guillen. All of that and more, today, August 16th, 2023. Good morning, Early Birds. I'm Jonathan Lehrfeld, and this is the Early Bird Brief, produced by Defense News and Military Times. First up, the Pentagon put Army National Guard Brigadier General Stephen Logan in charge of a multi-pronged military response to the deadly Maui wildfires. He'll be responsible for synchronizing Guard and active duty troops as they move supplies, put out any new fires, or do anything else federal emergency responders need. As of yesterday, approximately 258 Hawaii Army National Guard and Air National Guard personnel are supporting response efforts, according to the Pentagon. Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Singh said about 140 Coast Guard service members are currently assisting. A small number of active duty Marines joined to assist the recovery efforts as well. The wildfires are the deadliest in the U.S. in more than a century, with at least 99 people confirmed dead. Hawaii Governor Josh Green said it's going to take some time to recover.
The scale of destruction is incredible, so our hearts are broken even a little bit more than when we were together 48 hours ago with the extra fatalities.
President Joe Biden promised to give residents more than thoughts and prayers.
Our thoughts and prayers with the people of Hawaii, but not just our prayers. Every asset they need will be there for them.
Singh said U.S. Army Pacific troops are working on transporting personnel, supplies, and equipment, as well as setting up offices to support emergency responders. The Army Corps of Engineers is also managing FEMA efforts to remove debris and help provide temporary electricity. An exact number of service members participating in the response effort is not available at this time. Another important story, a congressionally mandated commission wants the Pentagon and Congress to reform its budget planning process. The planning, programming, budgeting, and execution process is the Pentagon's multi-year system used to align strategy with funding. It culminates with the president's annual defense budget request to Congress. Congress created a commission to review the budgeting process in the fiscal 2022 defense policy bill. The commission's interim report details improvements that could be implemented now. Among them, modernizing information systems, consolidating budget lines when possible, and improving Pentagon information sharing with Congress. The commission is seeking feedback from the Defense Department and Capitol Hill on its pending recommendations. Those include making congressional appropriations for 2 years instead of just one, and allowing the Pentagon more flexibility to reprogram certain funds. The report notes that some agencies, including NASA and the Department of Homeland Security, run on 2-year appropriations for some accounts and activities. The Commission has spent time comparing the Pentagon's budgeting process with the budget process in other federal agencies. It also compared the U.S. defense budget process with equivalent systems in other countries, including China, Russia, and other allied countries with parliamentary systems. In other news, a recent graduate of the Marine Corps boot camp made history last Friday. Jaskirat Singh is the first Marine Corps recruit to make it through boot camp with his Sikh Articles of Faith. For more on this, Marine Corps Times reporter Irene Lowenson joins the episode today. So, Irene, could you describe the rules surrounding long hair and religious exemptions in the Marine Corps? There was a whole court case surrounding this, right?
So in general, the rules are that if you're a man at boot camp or generally in the fleet, you have to be totally clean-shaven and your hair has to be trimmed short and you have to wear, a cover or nothing on your head depending on where you are, unless you request a medical or religious accommodation. So a member of the Sikh faith had previously sought an accommodation to wear his turban and his beard as an active duty Marine, having graduated from Marine boot camp. He was able to secure an accommodation after a win in court. So the Marine Corps had to be forced by a court to give him that accommodation. But the Marine Corps still was not providing religious accommodations for Sikh men to wear what's known as their Articles of Faith during boot camp. Advocates for the plaintiffs, in this case, 3 men who wanted to go to boot camp with their Articles of Faith intact, noted that the Marine Corps was the only military service that had such strict rules for during recruit training.
What were some of the arguments made in favor of and against having religious items during boot camp?
So the Justice Department, which was representing the Marine Corps in this case, argued that boot camp is a special time where civilians are stripped of their individual identity and are inducted into this shared Marine identity. And that shared Marine identity is unique and is particular to the Marine Corps as an especially expeditionary branch. So the idea is that by having uniform standards, so everyone's shaving in the morning, or, every male recruit is shaving in the morning, every male recruit has the same short haircut in boot camp. By doing that, the Justice Department's argument went, you make Marines who feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. The lawyers for the plaintiffs argued that the Marine Corps doesn't really have uniform standards as it is, because some men with chronic razor burn can get accommodations, medical accommodations, where they don't have to shave and they have to keep their beard short, but they can have beards. Women can have long hair in a variety of styles, even during boot camp. People can wear tattoo sleeves now that are different. And so one argument that the plaintiffs made was, hey, wait a second. Standards aren't even uniform now. The plaintiffs also just made the point that the Constitution and other federal laws guarantee religious liberty for citizens, both inside and outside the military. And they argued that, hey, other branches have made it work, and even the Marine Corps makes these accommodations work after boot camp. So the plaintiffs didn't see boot camp as that different from the Marine fleet or from recruit training for other services. And a federal appeals court in D.C. ultimately sided with the plaintiffs and said, hey, Marine Corps, you have to allow these Sikh plaintiffs to go into boot camp with their articles of faith intact. And by the time that happened, there was only one of the three plaintiffs who still had the intention of going the enlisted Marine route. That was Jaskirat Singh.
So you have the court decide in favor of Sikh recruits. What were those accommodations? And what was Jaskirat Singh's experience like, according to him?
So as I interpreted the rules that the Marine Corps and the plaintiffs decided on, as I see it, the accommodations are supposed to make Jaskirat Singh, in this case, look as much like other recruits as possible. So for instance, when he's in his camouflage uniform, he wears a cloth turban that's more informal. When he's in his service uniform, he would wear a dark green turban, which matches the color that his cover would be if he were not wearing a turban. In his dress blues, he would wear a white turban. During swimming, he could wear a black swim cap. And then there's also a steel bracelet that Sikh men traditionally wear as one of their articles of faith. And he was authorized to wear that except for when it posed a risk to others, like during the martial arts training. One concern that military leaders across the services have raised about allowing beards is whether gas masks can effectively seal. PFC Singh said that wasn't a problem. He was able to make it through the simulated gas attack with no issues. He also said that the drill instructors didn't pick on him, any more than drill instructors pick on other recruits, and that the other recruits had questions about his turban and his beard. He was happy to answer them, and he said that they seemed to think it was cool, enjoy learning about it. I think he's on leave right now, between boot camp and the next chapter, but the next step is School of Infantry, and he plans to be an infantryman.
Thanks, Irene. If you liked our conversation today, please like and rate us wherever you get your podcasts. Also on the radar for today, a Texas woman was sentenced Monday to 30 years in prison for helping dispose of the body of U.S. soldier Vanessa Guillen. Guillen was killed at Fort Cavazos, Texas in 2020. Her murder sparked a movement of women speaking out about sexual abuse in the military and led to changes in how they can report it. Cecily Aguilar is the only suspect arrested in Guillen's death. Cecily Aguilar is the only suspect arrested in Guillen's death. Aguilar pleaded guilty in November to 1 count of accessory to murder after the fact and 3 counts of making a false statement. Aguilar helped her boyfriend, Army Specialist Aaron Robinson, in dismembering and disposing of Guillen's body in a rural wooded area. Robinson died by suicide in July 2020. Guillen was declared missing in April 2020. Her family said they did not hear from her for an unusual amount of time. According to a criminal complaint, Aguilar said she and Robinson disposed of Guillen's body by mutilating it and hiding the remains in nearby woods. Aguilar pleaded not guilty to conspiracy charges 2 weeks after Guillen's body was found. A judge later dismissed her legal team's attempt to throw out her confession because she said she had not been read her Miranda rights at the time. Guillen's family believes she was sexually harassed during her time at the Texas military base. Army officials admitted in a report a year later that Guillen was harassed by another soldier, not Robinson, at the base. Her family's claim ignited a movement on social media of former and active service members who share their experience at military bases throughout the country using the hashtag #IamVanessaGuillen. Then Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy said Fort Cavazos had one of the highest rates of murder, sexual assault, and harassment in the military. He said the patterns of violence were a result of leadership failures. State and federal lawmakers passed legislation in 2021 that removed some authority from commanders and gave survivors more options to report abuse and harassment. Army officials disciplined 21 commissioned and non-commissioned officers in connection with Guillen's death. A quick note, we shared an AP story earlier this week reporting that the Pentagon is developing plans to restructure the National Guard in Washington, D.C., in part to address the chaotic response to the January 6th riot. The story reported that changes under discussion could transfer the District of Columbia's aviation units elsewhere. Those aviation units were criticized for flying dangerously low over a crowd during the 2020 George Floyd protests. The National Guard reached out to Military Times yesterday to refute the story. Army General Daniel R. Hokanson, chief of the National Guard Bureau, stated that the D.C. Air National Guard is not involved in the Army-directed restructuring of the D.C. National Guard. He added that there are no plans to transfer any elements of the D.C. Air National Guard to the Maryland National Guard. The AP has no plans to correct its story, which simply stated that the move was under discussion. And now, here are some other stories that we're hearing chirps about. The Messenger reported that the Navy destroyer Winston S. Churchill caught fire Monday morning, sending 5 crew members to the hospital. Stars and Stripes is reporting that later this week, a group of veterans, including veteran Navy SEALs, plan to cross the Hudson River in an iconic New York City swim. Al Jazeera reported that the head of Sudan's military accused a rival paramilitary force of committing war crimes. Sudan was plunged into conflict in April when tensions between the military and the Rapid Support Forces paramilitary exploded into open fighting. At this time, both sides appear no closer to finding a resolution. And NATO member Poland staged a massive military parade this week to showcase its state-of-the-art weapons and defense systems as war rages in neighboring Ukraine. And on this day in history, in 1977, Elvis Presley died. The music legend was drafted into the Army in 1958. Presley served for more than a year in West Germany as a Jeep driver. That's it for us this morning. To get more of the top stories and breaking news, go to defensenews.com/EBB to subscribe to the Early Bird Brief newsletter. Please give us a like, rating, and a comment wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at @defense_news and @Military Times. The Early Bird Brief is hosted by me, Jonathan Larafelt, and produced by Zimone Z. Perez. Today's episode features stories by myself, Irene Lowenson, and the Associated Press. Our editor-in-chief is Mike Gruss. Have a great day.